In the stillness of night, when the world seems at peace, there lurk figures obscured by the corner of your eye. Welcome to a journey into a realm where the seen and the unseen intersect. A realm of shadow people. Throughout time and across cultures, they have stood as silent observers on the periphery of our lives. Unexplained, unacknowledged, yet ever present, they bring a chill down your spine, a flicker in the darkness, known but never understood. From the haunted halls of history, where Abraham Lincoln glimpsed his ominous doppelganger, to the bedroom of a modern home, where a child whispers fearfully of a shadowy figure, the Hat Man lurking in the darkness. These are not mere tales of folklore, they are glimpses into a larger, more unsettling truth. As we peel back the veil of the ordinary, we reveal stories that challenge our very understanding of reality. Unveiling encounters that defy explanation, we explore the haunting question: who are these shadowy figures that watch from beyond the veil of our perception? Prepare to delve into the realm where whispers and darkness converge. The shadow people await. Will you dare to gaze into the eyes of the unseen? In 2008, nestled in the quiet suburbs, Tim Brown's life took an unexpected turn towards the inexplicable. One ordinary evening, as the house lay bathed in silence and the world outside whispered with the wind, Tim noticed something peculiar in his dimly lit living room. There was a movement, a subtle shift in the shadows that skirted the edge of his vision. At first, it appeared to be nothing more than a fleeting trick of the light, but as he focused, the form became clearer, more distinct. It was a figure, standing just beyond the reach of the lamplight, cloaked in darkness. The figure was unsettlingly still, yet its presence filled the room with an unshakable sense of foreboding. Every instinct in Tim urged him to dismiss it as imagination. Yet each time he blinked, the figure seemed to draw imperceptibly closer. It was an eerie, surreal moment. The figure's details were obscured, yet its outline suggested something ominously familiar. The room grew colder, the air denser, as if the very shadows were alive with a quiet, menacing intent. This was the beginning of Tim's journey into a realm beyond the normal, an encounter with a presence that defied all logic, standing at the threshold of our understanding of the seen and the unseen. As days slipped into nights, Tim's encounters with the shadowy figure grew more frequent. Each appearance was unannounced, unpredictably manifesting in corners of rooms, down the hallway, or in reflections of windows and mirrors. The figure, a dark silhouette crowned with the unmistakable outline of a broad-brimmed hat, seemed to be ever lurking, ever watching. Tim's initial shock gradually morphed into a mixture of fear and an insatiable curiosity. Sleep became elusive as the nights were filled with the anticipation of its next appearance. The once familiar comfort of his home transformed into a landscape of shadows and uncertainties. Every creak of the house, every flicker of light, sent a jolt of adrenaline through his veins. The figure never spoke, never made a sound. Its presence was marked by a palpable chill, a shift in the air, as if it were consuming the warmth around it. Tim began to research, delving into old books and online forums, seeking anyone who had experienced something similar. Stories of the Hat Man, a spectre witnessed by people across cultures and centuries, began to emerge from the depths of folklore and urban legends. This entity, often described as an omen or a guardian of the threshold between life and death, had been etched into the annals of paranormal encounters, yet remained shrouded in mystery. Each story mirrored Tim's experiences, painting a portrait of encounters that defied the bounds of conventional understanding. Fear mingled with fascination as Tim realized he was part of a much larger narrative, a participant in a phenomenon as ancient as it was inexplicable. The figure, a sentinel from the shadows, had chosen him for reasons he could not yet comprehend. The climax of Tim's harrowing experiences with the shadowy figure came one stormy night. A night where the howling wind outside mirrored the turmoil within him. As lightning fractured the sky, Tim lay in bed, his eyes fixed on the ominous darkness that had become his constant companion. That's when it happened. The most intense encounter yet. The room grew colder, a coldness that seeped into his bones. The shadows in the corner of his room began to coalesce, swirling into a denser, darker form. The Hat Man emerged from this void, more defined than ever before, standing at the foot of Tim's bed. It was as if the storm outside had given it power, making it more tangible, more real. For the first time, the Hat Man's eyes became visible, glowing faintly in the dark room. They held a depth that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. The figure raised a hand pointing directly at Tim, a gesture that felt both accusatory and inviting. The air was thick with a sense of impending revelation. This encounter was a turning point for Tim. The fear that had gripped him transformed into a resolve to understand. Who was this Hat Man? Why was he haunted by this apparition? Tim's search for answers began in earnest. He dove into historical records, paranormal research, and eyewitness accounts, seeking to unravel the mystery of the Shadow People. His journey led him through a labyrinth of theories, interdimensional beings, spirits of another realm, psychological manifestations. Yet, the true nature of the Hat Man remained elusive, a puzzle pieced together from countless stories and experiences, each adding a layer to the enigma. Tim's quest had just begun, a quest that would lead him deeper into the unknown, into the world of the Shadow People. In the realm of the mysterious and the unexplained, the phenomenon of Shadow People stands as a particularly eerie and unsettling enigma. These entities, often glimpsed fleetingly in the periphery of one's vision, have woven themselves into the fabric of human folklore and myth, creating a mosaic of chilling encounters that span across cultures and centuries. Shadow People, by their very nature, are elusive and enigmatic. Typically seen only out of the corner of the eye, they appear as indistinct, fleeting shapes, vanishing the moment one attempts to look directly at them. This quality of elusiveness only adds to their mystique, leaving behind a lingering sense of unease and a multitude of unanswered questions. While some cultures, like those that speak of the jinn in Middle Eastern folklore, or the Nalusa Falaya of the Choctaw Nation, describe these shadow beings with a certain reverence or caution, there are countless other tales where their presence is far more malevolent. In these stories, Shadow People are not just silent watchers or mysterious apparitions. They are beings that interact with the physical world in unsettling ways. Accounts of Shadow People exhibiting malicious intent are scattered throughout history and across different cultures. There are disturbing tales of individuals being pushed, scratched, or even attacked by these shadowy figures. These more menacing encounters often occur in the dead of night, turning the safety of one's bedroom into a place of unexpected terror. Victims report waking to find dark figures looming over them, feeling an oppressive weight on their chests, or experiencing a chilling touch by unseen hands. Such interactions challenge the notion of Shadow People as mere observers or passive entities. They suggest a capability for physical influence, a malevolent intent that transcends the typical narrative of silent, fleeting apparitions. These more aggressive encounters contribute to the lore of Shadow People, painting them as not just mysterious, but potentially dangerous, capable of reaching out from the shadows with a tangible, frightening presence. The widespread phenomenon of Shadow People, therefore, encompasses a broad spectrum of experiences. From the benign to the malevolent, their appearances, brief and perplexing, blur the lines between the known and the supernatural. This complex tapestry of encounters reflects the multifaceted nature of human interaction with the unexplained. The Shadow People, in their various manifestations, stand as a testament to our enduring fascination and fear of the unknown, inviting us, or perhaps daring us, to peer into the shadows that exist just beyond the reach of our everyday reality. In the realm of Shadow People, folklore and paranormal theories intertwine, connecting ancient beliefs with modern speculations. These entities, elusive as they are, have been subjects of intrigue and fear, often seen as messengers from realms beyond our comprehension. Throughout history, various cultures have offered their interpretations of these shadowy figures. In some traditions, they are seen as spirits of the deceased, trapped between this world and the next, their unfinished business anchoring them to the earthly realm. In others, they are guardians of sacred spaces, watchers who protect the thresholds of the unknown. The folklore of the British Isles speaks of shadowy figures as omens of death or misfortune. The Irish banshee, a spirit whose appearance foretells death, and the Scottish Sith, a spectral dog, are but two examples of how these shadows have been woven into cultural narratives. In contrast, some Native American tribes regard them as ancestral spirits, benevolent guides offering wisdom and protection. The Hopi people speak of shadow beings as manifestations of their ancestors, visiting the living in times of great need or transition. Modern paranormal theories offer a different perspective, suggesting that shadow people might be psychic projections, manifestations of our collective unconscious, or even extraterrestrial beings observing human activity. Psychic researchers and enthusiasts have long debated the nature of these encounters, with some suggesting that shadow people might be drawn to specific individuals, those with heightened psychic or emotional sensitivities, making them more attuned to the paranormal. From the echoing halls of ancient castles to the quiet bedrooms of suburban homes, the stories of shadow people persist, each account adding another piece to the puzzle. These tales, whether rooted in cultural myths or personal experiences, continue to captivate and terrify, leaving us to wonder about the true nature of the shadows that dance just beyond the edge of our sight. As Tim's journey into the shadowy world deepened, one theory began to stand out, casting a new light on his unsettling encounters. Could these shadow people, including the ominous Hat Man, be entities from another dimension? This theory, as chilling as it is fascinating, suggests that these figures might be visitors from a realm beyond our own, momentarily piercing through the thin veil that separates our worlds. This idea of interdimensional beings is not new. Throughout history, many cultures have spoken of other realms, parallel worlds existing alongside our own. The concept of a multiverse, where countless dimensions coexist, each with its own laws and entities, has been a topic of both scientific speculation and mystical belief. In Tim's case, the Hat Man's appearances seem to defy the laws of our physical world. His sudden materializations and disappearances, the eerie feeling of being watched from an unseen vantage point, all pointed to a being not bound by our reality's constraints. It raised the question, was the Hat Man a traveler from another dimension, momentarily crossing into Tim's world? This interdimensional theory gains further intrigue when considering the nature of the encounters. The shadow people, often observed in moments of heightened emotion or stress, seem to appear at the edges of our perception, in a liminal space where the boundaries between dimensions might be at their weakest. Furthermore, the theory posits that these beings might be drawn to certain individuals or locations that resonate with interdimensional energy, acting as a bridge between worlds. This could explain why some people, like Tim, experience repeated visits from these enigmatic figures. Could it be that the Hat Man and other shadow people are explorers of an unseen cosmic universe, wandering through the corridors of dimensions, occasionally stepping into our own? This theory blurs the line between science and the supernatural, challenging us to question the nature of our reality. Are the shadow people, including the enigmatic Hat Man, truly interdimensional watchers, silently observing us from beyond? On a chill, windswept night in the heart of Washington, D.C., within the storied walls of the White House, a tale unfolded that would etch itself into the annals of the paranormal. It was a time when the nation was torn by war, and its leader, President Abraham Lincoln, bore the heavy mantle of its fate. Amidst this backdrop of turmoil, Lincoln was to encounter something that transcended the woes of the nation, a ghostly harbinger in his own likeness. The story begins on an evening shadowed by the weight of war. Lincoln, weary from the day's burdens, sought a moment's respite in the solitude of his quarters. The room, steeped in history and whispered secrets, held a heavy air that night. As he stood before the antique mirror, a fixture that had reflected the visages of many a leader before him, Lincoln was seeking perhaps a moment of reflection, a brief escape from the storm outside. But what he saw in the glass was not the solitary, familiar reflection he expected. Instead, he was met with an image so startling, so unworldly, that it would forever alter his perception of the seen and unseen. Beside his own tired but resolute reflection, another figure materialized, ethereal and faint. It was his own visage, yet ghostly, pallid, as if drawn from the shadows themselves. This spectral double, a mirror image in every sense but one, its colorless, almost transparent quality, stared back at him with an intensity that pierced the veil of reality. In that moment, time seemed to stand still, the very air in the room thickening with an unspoken foreboding. The encounter, brief as it was, left an indelible mark on the president. It was the beginning of a story that would unfurl into one of the most haunting tales of the White House. In the aftermath of this chilling vision, Lincoln found himself enveloped in a cloud of deep contemplation and growing concern. The sight of his ghostly doppelganger lingered in his mind, casting long shadows over his thoughts. This was no ordinary reflection. It was as if the mirror had revealed a glimpse into another world, a world where shadows whispered secrets of things yet to come. The president, known for his keen intellect and stoic nature, could not easily dismiss this spectral encounter. Night after night, as the candles flickered in his study, he pondered the meaning of the apparition. Was it a figment of weariness, or something more profound, more ominous? Whispers of folklore and superstition of the era spoke of doppelgangers as harbingers of ill fortune, or even death. Such tales had been told across continents and cultures, often seen as an ill omen. Lincoln, a man not unfamiliar with the tragedies of life, could not help but wonder if this ghostly figure bore a warning from the shadowy realms beyond the living. His conversations with Mary Todd, his wife, often turned to this apparition. Mary, deeply spiritual and attuned to the supernatural, shared her own forebodings. The couple, already burdened by personal loss and the ongoing strife of the nation, now faced a new unseen uncertainty. The vision in the mirror had opened a door to a realm of spectral possibilities, intertwining their personal fears with the superstitions of the time. This chapter in Lincoln's encounter with his phantom self was marked by a growing sense of dread. It was a feeling that something significant, something inevitable was looming on the horizon. The president's nights were haunted not just by the concerns of a nation at war, but also by the eerie presence of his otherworldly twin, a silent spectre that seemed to be a portent of darker days to come. As the days progressed, the haunting image of Lincoln's spectral double refused to fade, etching itself into the corridors of his mind. The apparition, once a mere fleeting vision, had taken on a more ominous significance. It was no longer just an eerie anomaly, it had become a foreboding sign, a silent harbinger of doom. In the shadowed halls of the White House, where history was being written in the midst of tumultuous times, Lincoln's encounter with his ghostly doppelganger became a topic of hushed conversation and speculative whispers. Those privy to the story couldn't help but link it to the age-old superstitions that a spirit double often foretells tragedy. This interpretation was bolstered by the turbulent times that enveloped the nation. The Civil War, a conflict that had torn families and the country apart, cast a long dark shadow over the land. In such a context, Lincoln's vision took on a deeper, more sinister meaning, suggesting that the trials he faced were far from over, and perhaps the worst was yet to come. Mary Todd Lincoln, deeply affected by spiritualism and already burdened by her own personal losses, viewed the apparition as a dire portent. Her belief in the supernatural led her to fear for her husband's fate, a fear that was tragically prescient. When the fateful day at Ford's Theatre arrived, and the nation plunged into mourning, the memory of Lincoln's phantom encounter resurfaced with a chilling clarity. The ghostly double in the mirror, once a subject of intrigue and speculation, was now seen as a prophetic vision, a spectral warning of the tragedy that was to befall the president. The story of Lincoln's phantom, woven into the fabric of his legacy, remains one of the most compelling accounts of shadow people in history. It serves as a haunting reminder of the mysteries that lie just beyond the realm of our understanding, where history, folklore, and the paranormal intertwine. The tale of Abraham Lincoln and his spectral doppelganger, while not the typical shadow person encounter, bridges the world of the known and the unknown, echoing a phenomenon that spans across cultures and ages. It underscores how the same mysterious phenomena can be interpreted in myriad ways, each culture casting its own shadow on the tales of these enigmatic figures. The history of shadow people sightings is as old as civilization itself. Across the globe, in the whispered folklore of countless cultures, there exist stories of shadowy figures, often observed at the fringes of human perception. These stories, though varied in detail, all speak of the presence of beings that exist in a realm just beyond the tangible. In the ancient civilizations of Egypt and Greece, tales abound of shadowy spirits, ethereal entities that walked the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead. These figures were often seen as omens, messengers from the gods, or spirits with unfinished earthly business. In Eastern cultures, similar stories can be found. In Japanese folklore, the yokai are a class of supernatural entities and spirits, often manifesting as shadows, believed to influence or alter the fortunes of those they encounter. The Chinese speak of the Yingling, shadow spirits that roam the earth caught between realms. In the indigenous cultures of the Americas, shadow figures often held a more nuanced role. Among the Navajo, for instance, there exists the concept of the chindi, a shadowy residue left behind when a person dies. These spirits, while feared, are also respected, seen as a potent reminder of the balance between physical and spiritual worlds. Each of these interpretations reflects the cultural contexts in which they arose. While the Lincoln story is a singular account, steeped in personal tragedy and national crisis, it parallels these global tales in its portrayal of shadowy entities as portents or carriers of deeper meanings. This exploration into the diverse historical accounts of shadow people shows us how universally pervasive this phenomenon is. It's not just a product of modern folklore or the tales of a few, it is a thread that intertwines with the fabric of human history, present in every culture and era. These shadowy figures, whether seen as omens, ancestors, or interdimensional beings, challenge our understanding of the world and beckon us to look closer at the shadows that dance at the edge of our reality. In the realm of ethereal encounters, the connection between shadowy figures and omens of doom is a striking element that transcends cultural boundaries. While these figures may not align perfectly with the modern conception of shadow people, the parallels are undeniable. This suggests that what we often categorize as shadow people could be just one facet of a broader phenomenon that has haunted human consciousness for centuries. The story of Abraham Lincoln's phantom, although unique, resonates with this ancient theme. His encounter with the ghostly doppelganger, a foreboding prelude to his assassination, echoes a sentiment found across the world: shadowy apparitions as bearers of ill tidings. In European folklore, figures like the Black Shuck, a spectral black dog, were feared as harbingers of death. Its appearance was more than just an eerie sighting. It was a chilling sign that misfortune was close at hand. These accounts are not mere tales of fright. They are deeply ingrained beliefs that link the appearance of shadowy entities to the unravelling of fate. The Scandinavian Mara, bringing nightmares and distress, and the Irish Banshee, with her sorrowful wails, are further instances of how different cultures associate shadowy, ethereal figures with ominous events. These entities, while varying in form and lore, share the common trait of being messengers of impending doom. This pattern suggests a fascinating possibility: that the shadow people of contemporary encounters are part of a larger, more complex narrative of paranormal phenomena. They are not just mysterious figures lurking in the dark, but could be seen as modern-day manifestations of ancient beliefs, ethereal messengers that have taken on new forms in our collective psyche. Thus, when we talk about shadow people today, we might be tapping into a deep-rooted, age-old human instinct to find meaning and warning in the shadows that drift at the edge of our reality. It's a reminder that these phenomena, however we perceive them now, are deeply connected to the fears and superstitions that have been a part of human history since time immemorial. In the year 2001, a new chapter in the chronicles of shadow people began to unfold, this time within the confines of an ordinary suburban home. Sarah Mills, a young woman with no prior inclination towards the paranormal, found herself thrust into a world of nocturnal mystery. It began one ordinary night, as Sarah lay in bed, the moon casting its pale light through her window. The world was silent, save for the soft whisper of leaves in the gentle night breeze. It was in this stillness that she first sensed it. A presence, undefined yet unmistakably there, at the foot of her bed. At first, Sarah thought it was a trick of the light or a figment of her imagination. But as her eyes adjusted to the darkness, the outline of a figure became discernible. It was a shadow, darker than the surrounding night, standing motionless and silent. Its form was vaguely human, but its features were indistinct, blurred as if made of smoke or mist. Fear gripped Sarah, her heart pounding in her chest. She wanted to scream, to run, but she was paralyzed, not by fear alone but by a strange, inexplicable force. The figure just stood there, watching her, an unseen watcher in the quiet of her room. This first encounter marked the beginning of what would become a series of nightly visits. Each time, the figure appeared without warning, always at the foot of her bed. Its presence an enigmatic intrusion into the sanctity of her bedroom. Sarah, once skeptical of anything beyond the ordinary, found herself facing the inexplicable reality of a shadow person, a visitor from the shadows, whose silent vigil would become a haunting and inescapable part of her life. As the nights unfolded, the spectral visits in Sarah Mill's room evolved from a singular, unsettling occurrence to a recurring nocturnal ordeal. Each evening, as the world outside her window surrendered to the embrace of darkness, Sarah would brace herself for the inevitable. The shadowy figure, now a regular presence in her life, would appear, its arrival as certain as the night itself. The figure's visits were marked by a peculiar consistency. It would materialize as the clock ticked towards midnight, emerging from the shadows like a dark tide rising. Silent and motionless, it stood at the foot of her bed, an unwavering sentinel in the night. Its form seemed more defined with each visit, a silhouette etched in the darkness, yet its features remained an enigma, a blur of darkness within darkness. But it wasn't just the sight of the figure that terrified Sarah, it was the sensation that accompanied its presence. Each time the shadow appeared, a heavy, oppressive feeling would fill the room, as tangible as the darkness itself. Sarah described it as a sense of paralysis, a force that held her in place, rendering her unable to move or cry out. It was as if the figure exerted an unseen control over her, a dominion rooted in the unknown. This paralysis was more than physical. It was a paralysis of the soul, a deep-seated terror that clung to her even in the light of day. The once comforting sanctuary of her bedroom had become a stage for a nightly haunting, a place where the boundaries between wakefulness and nightmare blurred. Whispers from the corners of folklore speak of such experiences, where shadow beings not only appear but also exert a profound influence over their witnesses. In Sarah's case, the figure was more than just a visual manifestation. It was an entity that invaded her very being, leaving her trapped in a liminal space between fear and fascination. Sarah's encounter with the shadow person was a journey into the heart of the unknown, a testament to the profound and often terrifying impact these encounters have on those who experience them. Each visit, each moment of paralysis, deepened the mystery, weaving her story into the larger, shadowy collection of encounters with these enigmatic beings. As the nightly visits continued, Sarah Mills reached a point where fear gave way to a desperate need for answers. The unending cycle of apparitions and paralysis pushed her to seek understanding, to find some semblance of reason in the midst of the inexplicable. Her search led her down a path less traveled, into the depths of the unknown, where she discovered a startling truth. She was not alone in her encounters with the shadowy watcher. Determined to unravel the mystery, Sarah delved into the annals of paranormal research and folklore. Her journey through dusty tomes and the labyrinth of the internet brought her to communities of individuals who had experienced similar phenomena. These forums and gatherings were filled with stories that mirrored her own, tales of shadowy figures appearing in the dead of night, often accompanied by a suffocating sense of paralysis. In these narratives, she found a common thread, a shared experience of these silent visitors that transcended geographical and cultural boundaries. People from all walks of life, each with their own story of a silent, ominous figure that watched from the shadows. Some spoke of these beings as guardians, others as omens, but all agreed on their enigmatic and unsettling nature. Sarah's discovery opened her eyes to a global phenomenon, a world where the shadow people were more than just a personal nightmare. They were a part of a larger, more mysterious puzzle. Accounts dating back centuries, from the sleep paralysis demons of medieval times to the modern-day reports of shadowy figures, all pointed to a timeless and universal experience. This revelation marked the end of Sarah's solitary struggle and the beginning of a new chapter in her understanding of the shadow people. No longer was she a lone witness to the watcher in her room. She was part of a collective narrative, a shared human experience that connected her with others who had gazed into the same abyss. In this newfound community, Sarah found not just shared fears, but also a sense of camaraderie and a glimmer of hope in unraveling the enigma of the shadow people. Sarah Mills' harrowing experiences with the shadowy watcher opened a gateway into a realm of more intimate and personal encounters with these enigmatic beings, a realm where the line between the physical and the paranormal becomes blurred. Her story is but one of many, each tale adding its own chilling touch to the narrative of shadow people. These personal encounters with shadow figures are markedly different from the distant, fleeting glimpses often spoken of in folklore. They invade the private spaces of our lives, appearing in bedrooms, living rooms, places where we feel most secure. The intimacy of these encounters amplifies their terror, turning familiar surroundings into stages of eerie and unsettling dramas. Across the globe, countless individuals have reported waking in the dead of night to find these silent observers at their bedsides. Unlike the benign shadows of our everyday world, these figures emanate an aura of something otherworldly, something that does not belong in the realm of the living. Their presence is often accompanied by an overwhelming sense of dread, a feeling that the veil between worlds has been momentarily lifted. Historical accounts, dating back to ancient times, have documented similar experiences. The ancient Egyptians spoke of shadowy night visitors, entities that could enter bedrooms and instill a deep sense of fear. Medieval texts describe demonic figures appearing to sleepers, bringing with them an oppressive weight, both physical and spiritual. These modern-day encounters with shadow people, like Sarah's, bear a striking resemblance to these ancient tales. They suggest a continuity, a persistent thread that weaves through the fabric of human experience. These personal, intimate visitations challenge our understanding of reality, forcing us to confront the possibility that our world is inhabited by forces and entities beyond our comprehension. As we delve deeper into these stories, a pattern emerges. The encounters, though unique in detail, all share a core element, a confrontation with an unknown that is as deeply psychological as it is paranormal. They are not just tales of fear and mystery, they are explorations of the human psyche's relationship with the unknown, a journey into the heart of our deepest fears and curiosities. In the enigmatic world of shadow people, one theory stands out, casting a different light on these nocturnal visitors: the theory of subconscious manifestations. This perspective delves into the depths of the human psyche, suggesting that these shadowy figures may be more than just paranormal entities. They could be projections of our deepest fears and anxieties, especially in states of sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis, a phenomenon where one is conscious but unable to move or speak, often at the onset of sleep or upon waking, has been linked to sightings of shadow figures. In this twilight state of consciousness, the mind teeters on the edge of dreams and reality, creating a fertile ground for the manifestation of our innermost fears. The shadow people encountered in these moments might not just be intruders from another realm, but could also be the embodiment of our darkest nightmares. Historical accounts of night terrors and demonic visitations during sleep paralysis suggest that these experiences are not just modern phenomena. They have been a part of human experience for centuries, often interpreted through the lens of the cultural and spiritual beliefs of the time. Today, with our understanding of psychology, we begin to see these encounters as not merely paranormal events, but also deeply rooted in the human condition. This theory does not dismiss the reality of these experiences. Rather, it offers a more holistic understanding. It suggests that the shadow people might be a complex interplay of the psychological, physical, and paranormal, a convergence of our fears and the mysteries of the unseen world. In this light, these encounters become a canvas on which our subconscious paints its anxieties and struggles, using the brush of the paranormal to create experiences that are more real than reality itself. The encounters with shadow people, such as Sarah Mill's experience, might thus be seen as a manifestation of the subconscious mind grappling with unresolved emotions or stress. In the dead of night, when the barriers of our conscious mind lower, these shadowy figures emerge, not just as entities of fear, but as symbols of the hidden conflicts and terrors that reside within us. This theory of subconscious manifestations invites us to explore not just the paranormal, but also the depths of our own minds, blurring the lines between what is out there and what lies within, and opening a door to a realm where psychology and the supernatural coexist. In the year 1995, amidst the turmoil of a personal crisis that had turned his world upside down, John Roberts encountered something extraordinary. It was during those long, sleepless nights, as he wrestled with his demons, that he first noticed a peculiar presence in his home, a presence that initially stirred a sense of unease in his already troubled mind. John's life had been a cascade of misfortunes, each one weighing heavier on his soul than the last. Alone in his dimly lit living room, where the shadows seemed to dance with his despair, he felt the first brush of something otherworldly. At the very edge of his vision, in the darkest corner of the room, there was a subtle movement, a shifting of the darkness that was unlike the ordinary play of light and shadow. Each night, as the clock ticked away the lonely hours, this shadowy presence became more apparent. It was a figure, undefined yet unmistakably there, standing still, almost as if watching over him. The sight of it sent a shiver down John's spine. His first instinct was to dismiss it as a trick of his imagination, a byproduct of his frayed nerves. But night after night the figure returned, its form gradually becoming clearer, yet its intentions remaining a mystery. The figure, a silhouette cast in the deepest of shadows, seemed to emanate a certain kind of energy. At first, it was easy for John to assume it was another manifestation of the shadow people, entities often associated with fear and foreboding. But there was something different about this one. It didn't seem to harbour the malevolent aura that stories of shadow people often conveyed. As John grappled with his own inner turmoil, the presence of this shadowy figure began to weave itself into the fabric of his nightly ordeal. It was a silent observer in the midst of his distress, a constant in the ever-shifting sands of his personal crisis. The beginning of John's story with this protective shadow was marked by a mix of apprehension and intrigue, setting the stage for a journey that would challenge his understanding of fear, comfort, and the unseen world that exists just beyond the veil of our perception. As the days turned into weeks, John Roberts noticed a curious pattern in the appearances of the shadowy figure. It began to manifest not randomly, but in moments when John's distress peaked, as if drawn by the intensity of his emotions. This mysterious entity, once a source of fear, started to take on a different role, that of an unlikely comforter in the shadows. On nights when despair gripped John the tightest, when the echoes of his loss and heartache reverberated loudest in the emptiness of his home, the figure would emerge. It no longer lurked just in the corners. It was now a palpable presence, standing closer, its form more defined yet still shrouded in mystery. In these moments of profound sadness, the figure seemed to exude a silent empathy. There was no physical interaction, no words spoken, yet its presence carried a weight of understanding, a non-verbal acknowledgement of John's suffering. The air around it seemed to shift, the oppressive atmosphere of despair lightening ever so slightly, as if the figure absorbed some of the pain that filled the room. It was during one particularly harrowing night, as John grappled with the suffocating grip of his loneliness, that he experienced what could only be described as a moment of eerie solace. The figure, standing at the foot of his bed, seemed to radiate a faint, almost imperceptible aura. John, amid his turmoil, felt a sense of calm wash over him, a soothing balm to his frayed nerves. The room, which had been a prison of his grief, momentarily transformed into a sanctuary. John's encounters with the protective shadow painted a complex picture of the shadow people phenomenon. Here was a figure that defied the stereotypical narratives of fear and dread. Instead, it was as if this entity, born from the same dark corners as its more sinister counterparts, was a guardian of sorts, a sentinel in the night, offering a quiet form of companionship and comfort in the loneliest hours of the human soul. John's story, unfolding in the quiet of his home, became a testament to the multifaceted nature of these shadow encounters. It challenged the notion that these beings were solely harbingers of doom or fear. In the depths of his despair, John found an unexpected ally in the shadows, a protective presence that guided him through his darkest nights. As the nights passed, a transformation began to take root in John Roberts's perception of the shadowy figure that visited him. What started as a source of fear and unease slowly morphed into a sentiment far more profound and unexpected: gratitude. This enigmatic presence, once a symbol of his darkest fears, had become a beacon of comfort in his world of solitude and despair. John began to see the visits not as intrusions, but as a silent support, a companionship in his loneliest hours. The figure's consistent appearances during his moments of deepest distress started to feel less like a haunting and more like a vigil, a watchful guardian easing the weight of his sorrow. One night, as a storm raged outside, its thunder echoing the turmoil within, John found himself sharing his thoughts aloud with the figure. In the safe confines of his room, with the rain tapping against the window pane, he spoke of his pain, his losses, and his struggles. The figure, standing silently in its usual spot, seemed to listen, its presence a comforting shadow amidst the storm. In this moment, John realized that the figure had never meant harm. It was as if it had come to him in his time of need, a protective entity not of this world, but very much a part of his journey through grief. The fear that once clouded his interactions with the figure gave way to a sense of appreciation. The shadow had become a familiar, even welcome sight in his home, a silent companion in the quiet hours of the night. This evolution in John's experience reflects a broader narrative within the mysterious world of shadow people. It suggests that these encounters, often steeped in fear and misunderstanding, can also be deeply personal journeys of emotional and spiritual growth. For John, the protective shadow was no longer an unwelcome enigma. It had become a source of solace, a subtle reminder that even in our darkest moments, we may not be as alone as we think. John's story concludes not with the disappearance of the figure, but with a newfound acceptance and peace. In the shadow that once brought fear, he found an unexpected gift, a presence that guided him through the shadows of his own heart, transforming his fear into gratitude, and his solitude into a quiet companionship. The enigma of shadow people, as exemplified by John Roberts' unique experience, reveals a range of contrasting encounters. These experiences, varying widely from person to person, prompt a compelling question: how much of what we encounter in these shadowy figures is a reflection of their true nature, and how much is a projection of our own fears, beliefs, and emotions? John's journey, from fear to gratitude, illustrates the profound impact our perceptions and emotional states have on these encounters. The shadow that initially appeared as a dark, ominous presence transformed into a comforting companion in his time of need. This transformation begs the question: do shadow people inherently possess these diverse qualities, or do they merely reflect the inner turmoil or peace of those who witness them? In the realm of the paranormal, experiences with shadow people often mirror the emotional and psychological state of the individual. Those gripped by fear, anxiety, or negative expectations may perceive these encounters as threatening, the shadow figures taking on a more malevolent aspect. In contrast, individuals like John, who are seeking solace or companionship, might experience these figures as protective or comforting presences. This duality suggests that shadow people, much like other paranormal phenomena, exist in a space where the subjective and objective intertwine. They are entities that might possess their own consciousness and intent, yet are also shaped by the consciousness of the observer. It's a dance between the known and the unknown, where the nature of the entity is influenced by the mind and emotions of the person experiencing it. This concept is not new in the study of paranormal phenomena. Historically, cultures around the world have believed that spirits and entities are shaped by the beliefs and attitudes of the living. From the vengeful ghosts of wronged individuals to the protective spirits of ancestors, The nature of these encounters often reflects the cultural and personal contexts in which they occur. In exploring the contrasting nature of shadow people experiences, we delve into a deeper understanding of the human psyche's interaction with the unknown. These encounters, whether seen as hauntings, visitations, or guardianships, challenge us to consider how our perceptions shape our reality, especially in the realm of the unexplained. John's story, therefore, becomes a powerful narrative within the larger mystery of shadow people. It serves as a reminder that in the world of shadows, the line between what is out there and what lies within us is often blurred, and our encounters with the unknown are as much about exploring the depths of our own souls as they are about understanding the entities we meet in the dark. John Roberts' experience compels us to consider another intriguing possibility. Perhaps in John's case, the shadowy figure that brought him comfort was not merely a manifestation of his subconscious mind. Maybe it was something more, an actual protector, a guardian spirit distinct from himself, watching over him from the shadows. This theory, while contrasting the traditional narrative of fear and foreboding, finds roots in ancient beliefs and cultural folklore. Across different civilizations and eras, there are tales of benevolent spirits, guardians that emerge from the shadows to protect, guide, or offer comfort to those in need. In the ancient traditions of the East, for instance, it is believed that ancestral spirits watch over their descendants, offering guidance and protection. These spirits are often depicted as ethereal figures, existing at the edge of the physical realm, yet playing a vital role in the lives of the living. Similarly, in many Native American cultures, there is a belief in spirit guides, entities that serve as protectors and advisors. These spirits often appear in times of crisis or significant change, providing comfort and direction through the challenges of life. John's experience echoes these ancient beliefs. The shadow figure in his story transformed from a source of fear to a symbol of solace. It appeared consistently in moments of despair, not as a harbinger of doom, but as a silent companion offering unspoken support. This leads to a profound consideration. What if these shadowy visitors are here not to haunt but to help? The theory that shadow people could be spirits or guardians challenges our understanding of these encounters. It suggests a world where the boundaries between the living and the spiritual are permeable, where entities from beyond can cross over, not always as ominous figures, but as guides or protectors. This perspective invites us to view the encounters with shadow people through a different lens. Rather than manifestations of fear, they could be manifestations of the human need for connection, guidance, and protection, especially in moments of vulnerability. In this light, the shadows that linger at the edges of our perception are not just voids of the unknown, but potential spaces of sanctuary and support where unseen guardians reside, watching over us from the periphery of our reality. This theory opens up a realm of possibilities, where the encounters are not just chilling tales for the dark, but also narratives of unseen support and guardianship, offering a glimpse into a more complex and nuanced understanding of these enigmatic figures. In the year 2010, Emily Carter's tranquil existence was pierced by an encounter that would forever alter her understanding of the shadow world. On an evening like any other, in the quiet solitude of her home, Emily witnessed something that defied explanation, a gathering of shadow figures, interacting with each other in her very living room. The event began as a faint murmur in the shadows, an almost imperceptible shift in the darkness that cloaked her room. Emily, initially dismissive, thought it to be nothing more than the tricks light plays as it dances with the night. But as she continued to watch, the scene before her eyes evolved into something far more profound. In the dim light, multiple figures began to emerge from the corners of the room. They were shadows, yet distinct from the darkness around them. Each figure a silhouette, undefined but unmistakably humanoid. What struck Emily the most was not their mere presence, but their behavior. These shadow figures moved with purpose, interacting with one another in a silent, mysterious ballet. Some figures appeared to communicate with gestures, while others simply stood in what seemed like a silent conversation. The fluidity of their movements suggested an intelligence, a sense of intention that went beyond random shadow play. It was as if Emily had stumbled upon a hidden congregation, a meeting of beings from a realm just beyond the usual grasp of human perception. This spectacle unfolded with a surreal, almost hypnotic quality. The shadows moved with a grace that was eerie yet fascinating, drawing Emily into a state of awe and apprehension. It was an unprecedented glimpse into the behaviour of shadow people, a phenomenon that up until then had been characterised mostly by solitary figures and fleeting encounters. As Emily observed the gathering shadows, the boundaries of her reality began to blur. Here, in the familiar setting of her living room, was a scene that seemed to belong to another world. A world that existed parallel to her own, yet was altogether different, alive with its own mysteries and inhabitants. This initial encounter marked the beginning of Emily's journey into the depths of the shadow realm, a journey that would challenge her understanding of the seen and the unseen. As Emily Carter watched the shadow figures move and interact, the very fabric of her understanding of these enigmatic entities began to unravel. The intricacy of their behaviour, so deliberate and nuanced, challenged the common perception of shadow people as mere observers or fleeting apparitions. Each shadow seemed to possess its own unique demeanour and way of communication. Some moved fluidly across the room, their forms gliding over walls and furniture, while others remained still, almost contemplative in nature. This silent interplay, this shadowy discourse, was mesmerising. It was as if Emily had become an accidental voyeur to a clandestine meeting of otherworldly beings. Their interactions suggested a level of social complexity previously unfathomable in such entities. These were not the disjointed, eerie figures of law that loomed in the darkness of bedrooms or haunted the lonely traveller. They were coordinated, almost as if participating in a ritual or a council, their motions speaking a silent language that was felt rather than heard. The air in the room grew heavy, charged with an energy that was both unsettling and awe-inspiring. Emily felt a profound sense of being an outsider, a human spectator to a phenomenon that defied human norms and understanding. The figures, absorbed in their interaction, seemed oblivious to her presence, or perhaps indifferent to it, their focus entirely wrapped up in their own shadowy congregation. Emily's encounter peeled back a layer of the shadow people enigma, revealing a complexity that went beyond solitary hauntings or ominous appearances. It opened a gateway to the possibility that these entities might exist in a society of their own, one that operates beyond the veil of human perception, yet occasionally intersects with our world in the most unexpected ways. The gathering of the shadows in Emily's living room became a symbol of this revelation, a demonstration that the realm of shadow people might be far more intricate and organized than we ever imagined. In this moment, Emily stood at the threshold of a new understanding, her notions of reality challenged by the ballet of shadows playing out before her eyes. As the enigmatic assembly of shadows gradually dissolved into the darkness of her room, Emily Carter was left in a profound state of wonder and bewilderment. The encounter, which had started as a simple observation, had unfolded into a spectacle that defied her understanding of reality. The shadow figures, with their intricate interactions and silent communication, had opened a door to a world that was both terrifying and fascinating. The room, now void of the shadowy congregation, felt eerily empty, as if a vital energy had been withdrawn. Emily sat motionless, her mind racing with questions that had no immediate answers. Who were these entities? What were their intentions? Were they merely passing through her space, or was there a deeper connection to her own existence? The complexity of the shadow's behaviour suggested a society, a culture perhaps, that existed parallel to our own. It challenged the notion of shadow people as mere residual hauntings or unexplained anomalies. Instead, it hinted at a structured, perhaps even civilized, aspect of these entities that transcended the typical narratives of paranormal encounters. Emily pondered the true nature of these shadow beings. Were they aware of her as an observer, or were they indifferent to the living? The gathering had unfolded with a sense of purpose, each figure playing a role in what seemed like a ritual or a council, yet the meaning behind their assembly remained shrouded in mystery. This encounter left Emily with more questions than answers. It was a reminder that the realm of the shadow people is a complex network, interlaced with threads of mystery and enigma. The figures that had gathered in her living room were not just passing phantoms. They were entities that beckoned to be understood, beings that existed beyond the veil of human comprehension. Emily's experience with the gathering shadows became a pivotal moment in her journey through the paranormal. It was a glimpse into the unknown, a peek beyond the veil that separates our world from theirs. In the silence of her room, she realized that the mystery of the shadow people was far more profound than she had ever imagined. A mystery that she was now a part of. A mystery that continued to unfold in the hidden corners of our world. Following Emily Carter's startling encounter with a congregation of shadow entities, a deeper investigation into this phenomenon began to take shape. Her experience, far from being an isolated event, ignited a curiosity about the existence of multiple shadow entities and their potential significance in the realm of the paranormal. Traditionally, encounters with shadow people have been described as solitary experiences. Witnesses report a lone figure, often shrouded in darkness, looming in their presence. However, Emily's account of multiple figures interacting with one another opens a new chapter in the understanding of these enigmatic beings. Paranormal researchers, intrigued by this deviation from the norm, began to explore the possibility that shadow people might not just be isolated wanderers of the night. Instead, they could be part of a larger community or network existing just beyond the veil of our perception. The idea of multiple entities interacting suggests a level of social complexity previously unconsidered in shadow people lore. Historical accounts and folklore from various cultures provide some precedents for this theory. In many traditions, there are tales of groups of spirits or entities gathering, often for purposes unknown to the living. These tales speak of shadowy assemblies in the woods, ethereal gatherings in ancient ruins, and silent congregations in forgotten corners of the world. Emily's experience, with its vivid display of interaction and purpose among the shadow figures, adds a contemporary narrative to these age-old stories. It raises questions about the nature of these entities. Are they aware of each other? Do they communicate, collaborate, or even coexist in a way that mirrors human or animal societies? This line of inquiry leads to an even more intriguing proposition: the theory of parallel universes. Could these shadow people be inhabitants of a different reality, a parallel dimension that occasionally intersects with our own? Emily's encounter, with its display of organized behavior, suggests that these entities might be more than mere echoes or reflections. They could be glimpses into a parallel world, a world that exists alongside ours, invisible yet ever-present. The investigation into the phenomenon of multiple shadow entities thus becomes a journey into the unknown, challenging our understanding of reality and the boundaries between different realms of existence. As we delve deeper into this mystery, the experiences of witnesses like Emily Carter beckon us to consider the possibility of a much larger and more complex universe than we ever imagined, a universe where the shadows might just be a window into worlds unseen. Venturing further into the labyrinth of shadow people phenomena, we encounter a theory that, while echoing elements of the earlier interdimensional beings concept, branches into a distinctly different realm of speculation. This theory, inspired by the intricate encounters like Emily Carter's, suggests that shadow people might not just be entities traversing through dimensions within our universe. Rather, they could be manifestations from parallel universes, echoes of entirely separate realities that exist alongside our own. This proposition expands upon the idea of interdimensional beings by taking it a step further. While the interdimensional theory posits that shadow people are visitors from other dimensions of our universe, perhaps connected to phenomena like the Hat Man, the parallel universes theory opens up a more extensive and complex landscape. It hypothesizes that these shadowy figures come from alternate realities, each a distinct universe with its own narrative and physical laws. Emily's experience, where the shadow figures displayed behaviors suggesting a coherent societal structure, lends weight to this theory. Instead of appearing as transient visitors or observers, these entities interacted in a manner indicating a more permanent existence, in a reality parallel to ours. This theory diverges from the notion of interdimensional travel by proposing that our encounters with shadow people are not merely intersections with different dimensions. Instead, they are brief glimpses into alternate worlds, each universe existing next to ours but ordinarily unseen and unexplored. While the concept of parallel universes is a staple of scientific and science fiction discourse, its application to the shadow people mystery adds a new dimension to our understanding. In this context, the shadow figures we encounter are not just crossing from one dimension to another. They are representatives of entire universes that run alongside our own, each with its unique version of reality. Thus, this theory merges and expands upon the earlier speculations, presenting a broader view of the shadow people phenomenon. It suggests that these enigmatic entities are not just wanderers of the night, but could be inhabitants of a vast cosmos of parallel realities. Our sightings and encounters with them become moments of connection between our world and these other unseen universes, offering us a fleeting insight into the profound expanse of the multiverse. As we draw the veil over our exploration into the eerie and unsettling world of shadow people, we are left standing at the crossroads of many theories, each as mysterious and chilling as the entities they seek to explain. From the solitary encounters of figures like the Hat Man, to the benevolent guardianship experienced by John Roberts and the enigmatic gatherings witnessed by Emily Carter, the world of shadow people presents a labyrinth of paranormal possibilities. These shadowy figures, whether perceived as ominous harbingers, silent watchers, or echoes from parallel universes, continue to inhabit the periphery of our reality, blurring the lines between the known and the unknown. They challenge our understanding of the world, existing in the shadows that stretch just beyond the reach of the light, in the corners of our vision where uncertainty dwells. The stories we have explored, historical accounts, personal experiences, and speculative theories, come together to form a mosaic of the paranormal that is both fascinating and deeply unsettling. They remind us that our world is not just what we see in the daylight. It is also home to shadows that move with purpose and intent, entities that exist in a realm that is just out of our grasp. As we ponder the true nature of shadow people, we find ourselves confronted with more questions than answers. Are they spirits from another time, interdimensional beings crossing into our world, or manifestations of our deepest fears and anxieties? Or could they be inhabitants of parallel realities, glimpses into a multiverse that exists alongside our own? In the quiet of the night, when the world is still, and the boundary between sleep and wakefulness blurs, remember the world of the shadow people. They are a reminder of the mysteries that lurk in the darkness, a call to acknowledge the existence of realms unseen and stories untold. So, as you turn off the lights and let the darkness embrace your room, consider the possibility that you are not alone. In the realm of shadows, where reality meets the unknown, the shadow people wait, ever present, ever watching, a part of our world that remains forever enigmatic, forever just beyond the veil.